Okay, so when you think of England's capital, your mind immediately goes to London, right? Of course it does. But what if I told you that long before London was, well, London, there was another city at the heart of it all, a place where the story of England wasn't just recorded, it was literally written. Today, we're uncovering the secrets held in Winchester's ancient stones, from a time when it was the most important place in the kingdom.
It's kind of a wild thought, isn't it? I mean, London is so dominant today, it's almost impossible to imagine another city holding the crown. But for centuries, before London's star truly rose, the real heartbeat of English power, wealth, and identity was pumping right out of Winchester.
So, first things first, we need to get our heads around Winchester's role. It wasn't just a city. It was the crucible where the very idea of England was forged, in the fire of Viking invasions and the ambition of some very powerful kings.
And smack dab in the middle of that story is one guy, King Alfred the Great. In the 9th century, with Viking longships menacing the coast, Alfred made Winchester his capital. And it wasn't just a fortress, no. It became the political, the cultural, and the spiritual command center for the future of Anglo-Saxon England.
But here's the really cool thing about Alfred. He wasn't just a warrior king. The man was a visionary city planner. He rebuilt Winchester on this grid system, a design that was centuries ahead of its time, made for defense and for civic order. And what's truly incredible is that if you walk through Winchester today, you're still following that exact Saxon street pattern.
For centuries, Winchester was the place to be. Its status was paramount. Even after the Norman conquest in 1066, William the Conqueror built a massive castle here, basically giving it a huge stamp of approval. But, things change. The political tide slowly started to turn, London's influence just kept growing, and by the 16th century, Winchester had gracefully settled into a new role, not as the capital, but as the keeper of the nation's memory.
And even as its political power faded, Winchester's history was being permanently etched into its architecture. These buildings, they aren't just old. They're like silent witnesses to the nation's most defining moments.
And no structure tells more stories than Winchester Cathedral. I mean, it's the absolute centerpiece of the city. This landmark is so magnificent, it's basically a movie star in its own right. You've seen it in Netflix's The Crown, in the Da Vinci Code, it even stood in for the Vatican. That's how grand it is.
And just get a load of this scale. At 558 feet, that's about 170 meters, Winchester Cathedral has the longest Gothic nave of any cathedral in Europe. To actually stand inside, it's a truly humbling experience. It makes you feel very small in the grand scheme of things.
And inside, it's an absolute treasure trove. You'll find the grave of the one and only Jane Austen. You'll see this remarkable medieval window that was shattered during the English Civil War and then pieced back together like some kind of beautiful, chaotic, abstract art. And high above, those chests are said to hold the jumbled bones of Anglo-Saxon kings, a very real testament to the turbulent history this building has lived through.
But maybe the most incredible story of all is one of just sheer human grit. In the early 1900s, the whole cathedral was literally sinking into the wet ground beneath it. So what was the solution? A deep-sea diver, a man named William Walker. For 6 years, he worked completely alone in the pitch-black, flooded foundations, working entirely by touch, packing them with concrete. He single-handedly saved the entire structure from collapse. It's just unbelievable.
Now, just a short walk from the cathedral stands another giant of history, the Great Hall. This is all that's left of Winchester Castle, which was once the seat of government for the Norman kings. For centuries, it was a court of law, and it was right here that the famous explorer Sir Walter Raleigh was put on trial for treason in 1603. You can almost feel the history in the air. So the official history is just astonishing. But what about the other stuff? The legends, the whispers, the mysteries that swirl around these ancient stones. What are the stories that get told when the history books are closed?
Well, that brings us to the more mysterious side of Winchester. We're talking a world of legendary heroes, persistent folklore, and a few ghostly whispers that still echo through the city today.
So let's start with the big one, the iconic round table hanging in the Great Hall. Now, legend connects it to King Arthur, but history tells a slightly different story. It's actually a 13th century table, probably made for a big tournament. But here's the real twist. King Henry VIII had it painted with a Tudor rose, a brilliant piece of political branding to link his own dynasty to the mythical glory of Camelot.
Winchester is also where England's most famous piece of weather folklore comes from. It's all about Saint Swithin, a 9th century bishop who just wanted a simple burial outside, where the rain could fall on him.
But when some monks later tried to move his remains into a fancy shrine inside the cathedral, a furious storm apparently broke out and lasted for 40 days. And from that, a legend was born that endures to this day.
And of course, a city this old has to have its ghosts. It just comes with the territory. People have reported seeing phantom monks processing down the cathedral nave, but their feet are below the modern floor, as if they're still walking on the original medieval ground level. And in the cellars of shops built over the old Norman palace, some have heard the unmistakable clinking of chainmail in the dark. But beyond the grand legends and ghost stories, I think we find Winchester's true character in its hidden pulse, in the stories of ordinary people whose actions have ended up shaping the city.
Take the story of the Buttercross, a beautiful medieval monument. In 1770, a local landlord actually bought it and planned to just dismantle it and move it to his private estate. Well, when his workers arrived to take it apart, the citizens of Winchester staged a full-on riot, physically driving them out of the city and saving their landmark for the public. A true story of people power.
But the city holds darker memories too. It was right here, in the marketplace, that an elderly woman, Dame Alice Lyle, was publicly executed. Her crime? She gave shelter to fugitives. Tried by the infamous hanging Judge Jeffreys, her tragic fate marks a really grim and poignant moment in English legal history.
The city is also full of these fascinating firsts and incredible survivals. It boasts England's oldest working watermill, a direct link to its medieval industry. It opened the UK's first ever public library under the 1850 Act, a nod to its intellectual heritage. And it's home to the Hospital of St. Cross, the oldest charitable institution in the entire country, founded way back in 1132, and still carrying out its mission today.
So as we've seen, what makes Winchester so incredible is that the past isn't something you just read about in a book there.
This quote just says it perfectly. You feel the history here. It's in the Roman foundations beneath your feet, it's in the Saxon street grid you walk upon, and it's in that medieval cathedral that still stands as the city's heart. The past is a living, breathing part of modern Winchester.
And that really leaves us with a final thought. If one city, England's ancient capital, can hold so many layers of kings and legends and everyday heroes, it really makes you wonder, how many other stories are still waiting to be discovered, right under our own feet, wherever we happen to be in the world?